So good to see your faces on this especially warm day. Today's service, believe it or not, is about July 4th, Independence Day, and our complicated relationship with this holiday. Towards that end, Diana Munch, our music director, is going to play America the Beautiful for the prelude. Now, I want you to notice your own reaction to that and just breathe into it. Perhaps maybe this isn't one of your favorite songs. Maybe it calls something to you that you have forgotten, but I just encourage you to notice that for yourself. For a little context, America the Beautiful was written by Catherine Lee Bates. She lived from 1859 to 1929. She was an author, poet, social activist, English professor at Wesley College, and various historians disagree on whether or not she may or may not have been a lesbian. We don't know, because in the 1800s you didn't talk about that. She is known for her lyrics to America the Beautiful and for her many books and articles on social reform, on which she was also a noted speaker. Her father was a congregational minister, and she is believed to have some Unitarian roots as well. The song was first performed in 1895. Please listen to it in that context.
Please rise as you're willing and able for our hymn from the Gray Hymnal, number 291, Die Gedanken sind frei. Tough act to follow.
No one lips may be still, but I think what I will. A glimmering fire, the darkness will brighten my soaring desire. All troubles can lighten. No prison enfold me, its walls cannot hold me. No captive I'll be, for my spirit is free.
We bid you welcome. In this community of radical inclusion, we make space for what you believe and what you love. Your whole self is welcome here. In this community of open-hearted inclusion for all people, we do not expect you to think in a certain way or restrict yourself to one set of beliefs. We only ask that you try to live a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. We are so grateful that you are here. My name is Beverly Church, and I'm your service leader today, and my pronouns are she and her. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us, whether enjoying the service in person or watching online. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, we invite you to stay for coffee and conversation downstairs in our reception hall. Please take a moment now to silence your phones, but we encourage you to share your presence with us on social media. I have several announcements today. At the conclusion of today's service, we will go directly to the new rain garden. That way, okay? For its dedication. As soon as the postlude has concluded, please join us for this dedication. Today, in conjunction with the dedication of our new rain garden, we will have a Caring Sunday collection for the Greening of Detroit. The Greening of Detroit is a nonprofit organization focused on enhancing the quality of life for Detroiters by planting trees, providing job training, and involving our youth in the education of the natural environment. Detroiters are involved in the process through community engagement, green spaces, education, and jobs. When we take the offering, you can contribute through envelopes with cash or checks. To donate directly, you can use the link in Friday's e-blast. After the rain garden dedication, everyone's invited to coffee hour. If you're a relative newcomer, whatever that means to you, you're invited to a newcomer meetup at a table in our fellowship hall downstairs. Reverend Karen and a member of our membership committee will greet you and share information about our congregation. All are welcome. Next Sunday, July 13th, we are inviting First UU and Northwest UU to join us for our Sunday service. Please arrive early if you can and park in the parking lot at the business lot to the south, so there is plenty of parking for everyone. Please join us for the Farmington Founders Festival Parade Saturday, July 19th. Wear your blue UUCF shirt or a plain blue shirt and bring your protest signs to carry in the parade. You should find our spot in the parade by 9:30 a.m. because the parade steps off around 9:40. Please allow for parking time. And RSVP to Hope Sorensen. More detailed information is in the Friday e-blast and the July Magnet newsletter. And now I'm going to invite up Marie-Laurie for an announcement.
I'm going to need a ladder. Morning, Marie-Laurie Social Justice Committee. There are 2 fancy purple boxes in the building right now. We're asking, as well as in addition to the Caring Sunday today, we're asking you throughout the next month to bring in school supplies. The Farmington schools are collecting supplies both for kids and for teachers. We know especially how hard it is for teachers to use their own money to source their classrooms. So please bring in any school supplies, put them in the purple boxes for us. Thank you.
Please save the date for this year's service auction, which will be held on November 8th. This year's theme is Living in the Mitten. Now is the time to start thinking about what you might like to offer for events and services. See the weekly e-blast for more information. And now, Diana, I understand you have an announcement?
Is this on? I have, my early music group is doing a concert on Tuesday, and we're raising money for two groups that support immigration. One's the Jewish Family Services, and I don't know the name of the other one. But I hope you'll come and support those causes, because they're really important. It's in Ann Arbor, and I don't even, it's a Lutheran church, and it's in the poster is in the e-blast, so you can get the information there.
And I'd also like to invite up Katie Coker for an announcement.
Good morning. I'm Katie Coker, and I am here today as your Executive Board President with an announcement from the Executive Board. As you all know, we had our April Town Hall and our May Congregational Meeting, and we shared with you our budget. As you know, we did not meet our pledge drive amount, and we are able to supplement that to reach our pledge goal with some reserved funds this year. So we met our budget for this year. However, looking forward, we will not have those reserve funds, as we shared with you. So in the coming years, we may have to make some tough choices. Your executive board has been meeting throughout the month with that knowledge to project how we move forward as a congregation, and we made the difficult decision that we will need in 2026, that budget year, to drop down to having a 3/4 minister again with prorated benefits. We let Reverend Karen know that that's the position financially that we're in right now, and unfortunately, that does not align with her needs and her family's needs moving forward. So in the end of July 2026, Reverend Karen will be leaving us to find another congregation. So where do we go from here as a congregation? We will enter search again, ministerial search, this fall. I've been in contact with David Pyle, as well as the transitional director. David Pyle is our UUA contact for Mid-America. So we're already getting the ball rolling on that, but we will enter search again for a contract minister. In an ideal world, Reverend Karen will be with us until July 2026, and in an ideal world, we will have found a minister who will come in August 2026, so there won't be ministerial interruption. Luckily, we're in a good position because we've made this decision early. So the UUA is optimistic about that. But we will have to make a search committee. So if any of you are interested in being a part of the search committee and finding a new minister, we would love to have you join us. Please see me or Kyle. We'll be heading up. He's your new VP of admin. So we'll be heading up the search committee. Reverend Karen will be working with us over the next year to help us transition to a new ministry. And we also will be having, in conjunction with Cosmic, which is our committee of shared ministry and congregational health, some listening circles starting in August and September. You'll get an e-blast with more information about that. But during those listening circles, Cosmic will be posing questions like, what is your priority for a new minister? What do you want to see? What where do you see our congregation going? What kind of impact do you want our congregation to make? Who do you see UUCF as? So for your voice to be heard, please attend one of those circles with Cosmic. We'll have 3 circles in person, and there will also be a virtual survey for those that don't feel comfortable taking part in the listening circle. But choose one avenue when that comes out, so that we're not hearing some voices twice. Obviously, this is a lot of information. So if you have any questions, you can see me or another board member if you have questions or concerns. So thank you for listening, and we are so grateful to Reverend Karen for all that she's done for us. There are no hard feelings either way. It's just the situation that we both find ourselves in. It's an unfortunate one, but we know that she will help us transition well, and we look forward to this next year with her. So thank you all.
Please check out our social media on Facebook or Instagram, and also the UUCF website or emails for other announcements about upcoming events. Our chalice lighting words today come from Adrian Rich. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed. I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. Thank you. Please join me in reciting our UUCF mission statement, which can be found in your order of service. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, live with compassion. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Your joy is multiplied in its sharing. Your sorrow is lightened in its sharing. The stories that are shared weave together to strengthen our community as we care for one another. You're welcome now to come pick up a stone or stones from the table here, infuse it or charge it with your joy or sorrow, and place it in the singing bowl where its energy will ripple out to be held by all of us. If you have something you'd like to share verbally, please come up and speak directly into the microphone here. All are welcome to participate in any of these ways.
Hi, Barb Iovan, Social Justice.
We light 3 candles for the intentions that rest in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, one for the joys, one for the sorrows, and one for the strength of the gathered community that can support you and bring you peace.
I would like you to notice yourself. How are you feeling in this moment here today? Bring your energy, your space. If maybe your stomach is tight, maybe your shoulders. Feel that energy, whatever you were worried about before you came in. Try to breathe into it. Acknowledge whatever it is. It will still be there after today, I promise, whatever it is. But we can let go of it in this moment. Bring our energy, space to here. I'm going to lift up the joys and sorrows, both said and unsaid, unexpected, hard news, unexpected joys that bring us all new ways of seeing the world. Let us hold those together. That is just in this community. I want to also hold in our minds, our hearts, the people of Kerr, Texas, and the floods that are happening and the people who've been affected. And we understand that everything is connected. Through many people, we are aware of folks who are directly impacted, and we understand that climate change is real. We're aware of that, and we ourselves do what we can every day to make that change. I want to acknowledge the difficulty of this past week when a horrendous bill went through Congress. And that was very hard for all of us in many ways. It's not always something we actually acknowledge as a joy or sorrow. We don't know the exact full ramifications that are going to happen exactly in this moment. I am concerned about each of us and our futures. But for now, we can hold this space of joy. We can hold on to knowing that we have this community here together. Let's take a breath in together. For our meditation, I wanted to read to you, this is a lamentation for the state of our country. This was written after the first 100 days of the current administration, and I still think it applies. Written by the organizing strategy team of the Unitarian Universalist Association for Side with Love. They write, "Spirit of love, spirit of life, whatever it is that maybe you call on when you are sad or need something or someone to reach out to. We gather with hearts broken open, souls aching by the weight of the world, by the wounds of history, by the cruel persistence of injustice. How long, O Spirit, must our bodies be made into battlegrounds? How long must the earth be sacrificed at the altar of profit? How long must we abide by an economy of disposability where Black, Indigenous, people of color, transgender, and disabled lives are traded for another's right to exist, another's claim of safety? How long must this world run on stolen labor, stolen land, and stolen lives for the sake of greed and the lie of supremacy? We lament the silence that has stretched too long, the complicity woven into our own comforts, the slowness of our response when urgency was demanded. We grieve the gap between our values and our actions. between the pragmatic and the prophetic. Forgive us for the times we have turned away. Forgive us when we have mistaken quiet for peace and civility and decorum for justice. But let this lament not be the end. Let our sorrow carve space for resolve. Let our tears water the seeds of an uprising. Let our faith rise from the ashes, not innocent, but braver, wiser, more centered in love. May we be a people who side with love. May we be a people who disrupt, who dismantle, and who dream. May we be a people who remember that we are always on the horizon of transformation, and there may we greet our collective liberation from everyone beyond our own imaginations. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. From your seats, we are going to sing our meditation song from our gray hymnal, number 362, Rise Up, O Flame, and we will sing through it twice.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing. Show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing. Show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Our reading today is a video of Heather Cox Richardson, a historian and professor who writes daily messages called Letters from an American. And if you haven't checked out Heather Cox Richardson before, I encourage you to do so. The video is called Why Do We Protest in America? How Should We Protest? This video was produced right before the June 14th No King's Day protests, but the message is still relevant.
Protests this summer, and we're going to see the administration push protests. We're going to see so many protests this summer, and we're going to see the administration pushing back on the protests, and it's going to be dangerous. Why do we protest in the United States of America? And I can't speak for any other countries. That's why I always limit that. Protests indicate whether or not a government is legitimate. That's why they matter. You are not protesting to get rid of a certain senator. You are not protesting to say, I want a different law. You are protesting because the people who are in power are putting in place policies that you do not support. And I guess it could be a single law, but what you're really doing is you're saying to your neighbors who are not involved, I don't support this government and you shouldn't either. That's a different thing than fighting against ICE, for example. And the reason I make that distinction is because in the protests, there's a lot of fighting going on social media right now about what those protests should look like, because there are a lot of things going on that are horrific. The separation of children, the rendition of these poor souls to these infamous prisons. I mean, I could just go on at great length. But as angry as those things make you, in American politics, what changes things is getting those people who are not otherwise on your side, either because they're apathetic or they're a little doubtful or whatever, to join you. And the way that you do that is by looking non-threatening, by demonstrating that you stand for American values that they share. And so I actually have an American pin on underneath my coat. It's really cold in here. I urge everybody to carry the symbols of American democracy, to wear pins, to carry American flags, to really deck yourself out as the people who own American democracy, because we do. and to really recognize that what the protests are designed to do is to say, we are America. This is the value. These are the values that America should stand on. Please join us. That doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything that the people around you think or that they are with you. And as I say, we can work all that out in the wash on the other side of this. But I'm saying all this because people sometimes mistake the idea that protests are designed to fight back against the system and the people in the system. In fact, the minute in the United States anyway, that you start to demonstrate violence, you lose all those people you need on your team because they were kind of apathetic to begin with. And they just don't want to have any part of it. One of the theories behind people like Dr. King was that nonviolence is important. He had a number of reasons, but people like me look at it and say nonviolence is important because that brings those people on board. The minute they see violence, they don't want any part of it. So the protests on our side to take back American democracy must be nonviolent. They should be as American as they possibly can be in their symbolism and, Declaration of Independence, multiculturalism, all of those things are who we are. And the recognition that the fight here is for public opinion. It's to demonstrate that the Trump administration is not popular. And that's, of course, why he's determined not to have those protests on June 14th, because he wants everyone to just see him, when the reality is he's deeply unpopular. The cost of this parade is infuriating a lot of people. Hey, the cost of sending the troops to Los Angeles at this point is pegged out at $134 million. There's a budget from the Department of Homeland Security for advertising to make people feel better about Trump. All that stuff are things that Americans don't like. So going into this moment, when you're thinking about things you can do, recognize that the war, and I mean that is going to happen for the next several months, is for legitimacy, is for the idea that we are the Americans, and those people who are ripping children away from their parents are not. They are not representing our values. So it's just kind of a different lens to look at protesting. But it also means that the protesting that goes on in the streets should look a certain way. But you don't have to just protest in the streets at certain times. You need to be anywhere where the discussion of American values, and by that I mean book banning and school boards and education and art and science. There's all kinds of programs to stand up for science this summer. You need to be in those places. And you also need to be on social media saying to people what it is that's happening that is personally affecting you. The cuts to cancer research, for example, the cuts to the Weather Service, the cuts to science, the many different ways here's another one that somebody brought up to me today. The people who are deployed and the families of the people who are deployed don't want to be in this position. That's not why they signed up for the military. That's not why they have taken the hits that they have in their lives. They don't want to be political pawns. They're there to defend the United States of America. The degree to which we can speak up about that will help to convince people who are not that involved right now to get involved, because we need their voices. We need at least 3.5% of the American population, and we need continually to demonstrate that those people in power, those vicious people in power who are also showing their incompetence, are not the people that we want to have carry this country forward. So I hope that gives you a little bit of calmness anyway. It's scary. I'm not going to deny it's scary. We're all exhausted. Things just keep coming. But it's really important to recognize the difference between what Trump is trying to project and what's real. And the reality is what's going to get us out of this, because it will enable us to puncture that false image. And again, you can see this all over social media. There's all kinds of bots and trolls working nonstop overtime to try and convince us that the protesters in LA are violent. And this is very much a psychological operation. we need to push back with that same kind of fervor. All right. I hope that's enough for today. I'm going to go back to writing and, keep the faith because it's going to be a hell of a ride. But we have no choice but to move forward. And I'm ever so proud to be doing this with you all. Protests. We're going to see so many.
I know July 4th is this weird, bizarre holiday for many of us. I really appreciate how so much of what Heather Cox Richardson said. And again, if you are not following Heather Cox Richardson, like right now is a great time to pull out your phone and just do a Google search on Heather Cox Richardson. So her name is written out in the program, and get on her email list. Get on her email list, follow her on social media. It really, really, really helps. And she puts a lot of things into historical and current perspectives. So that for me, it kind of helps keep me a little more sane because you can like see some of the bigger threads. Even though you see this is happening, it's connected. Everything's connected, and it helps me anyway. And so I highly recommend following her. But one of the things I appreciate that she talked about was that we're Americans too. Are we not Americans? How did you feel hearing America the Beautiful? And I understand that moment in there of like, do I cheer for this? How can we not cheer a beautiful piece of music? How can we not cheer Diana like pouring her heart and soul into that song? Knowing some of the context of that song, I think helps when we have a complicated relationship with a place we both love and want to constantly improve. Because we know the United States has never, ever lived into its values, right? Not one day has it actually fully welcomed everybody the way that it says it does. There's a book that I've been reading on the history of protests in America, and it talks about like this ongoing split, the mind split that the United States has, like the America and then the United States, and they kind of try to talk about it in two separate ways because it's so, it can just kind of make you like befuddled, like, do I love this place? Are these my people? I don't know. But I really believe that we are all Americans, aren't we? We are Americans. And we, too, have a right to stand up and believe in the world that we wish to see. And one of those ways we do that is through protesting. We still have the right to stand up, be in public, go make your voices heard, and in many, many, many ways. There is outright defiance, there is taking over places, there is sabotage. There are so many ways that people can get involved and do things, even if on the very smallest level is getting informed and getting connected to other people, showing up in places where you might not feel so comfortable. America is this crazy place because we were built, the country originally, first, it was founded by taking over from other people and then saying, okay, this place is ours now. And then it was founded by people who were sent from another country to lay claim to it, to colonize it. And in fact, the first 13 states were colonies, right? So we had the 13 colonies. And then these people decided they had had enough of being ruled by the British Crown. Eventually, you're being pushed around long enough, people rebel. And so we have one of our stories in this world, in this country, is that we're so proud of our founding fathers, because it's only men who signed the Declaration of Independence, and they were the people who also, they stood up to tyranny. They listed all of the ways that King George said and did terrible things to them, and they said, we are not going to take it anymore. And in this country, we idolize people who stand up against tyranny, right? I think we have a woodpecker. Yes. This is one of the things, just acknowledge that sound. We have a woodpecker. So we revere these people that stood up against tyranny. And now we find ourselves in the same situation with Americans, people like us, who are standing up and saying, wait a minute, again, We don't have kings in this country. We are not a monarchy. We have a president, not a king. We have checks and balances across all systems so that not one system has all the power. That is how it was designed. And we are feeling that those systems are not currently working. It's complicated, right? How do we love a place when the place is also breaking our hearts? There's one of our songs, the name isn't coming to me now, but one of the lines that says, I said yes. And it says, I said yes, even when you broke my heart. Even when. We can still love this country. I believe we can. We can still have those stirrings in our hearts and show up when things need to change. I kept thinking on this, and especially because this land of my birth, when I was reflecting on it, realizing that I had completely forgotten this. You would think this is like this weird thing to forget, but I was actually born on an Army base in North Carolina. My father was in the Army. He got out of the Army when I was around 3, so it didn't have like a big impact on my life. But then thinking on this of how the military is like one way that people experience the world and all that comes with it. And I wanted to make sure that thinking on that's one way it's complicated, and also the religious right. Now, I've been leading congregations now, I think, for 5 years, and never once have I even considered the possibility of talking about July 4th. Never, ever, because it's such a complicated holiday. But then this year, because of this administration, I felt like I can't not talk about it. We have to talk about it. This country belongs to us too. And one thing that people get conflicted about is, can we do this in a church? Absolutely. We can talk about issues. We can talk about causes. We can talk about our values. We just can't say, do or don't vote for this person, but you all know who we're talking about, right? We don't have to spell it out. You know exactly what that is. We can say, we have these values, and you know exactly who and what that translates to. And I grew up in this really strong belief about the separation of church and state. Those had to be separate. But what that actually means is that the government can't favor a particular religion. That doesn't mean that we can't talk about our own values and how our values impact the larger world. We can still do all of that. Now, I have to give you a confession. This is a weird one. My life has been kind of strange because I grew up with this military father in one way who was also very, very conservative religiously. And my mother, on the other hand, was a little more lefty on the other side. So I was getting information from both sides. And so from that, I still got the sense of right and wrong, standing up for what was right. You go do this thing and you believe in things and so on. However, I haven't always been comfortable with the word activist. Activist has been used as a pejorative. It's been used as a derogatory, like those activists are doing this thing. And so I, not wanting to identify myself as like bad people, somehow felt uncomfortable using that word. But then it was 2012 when that shifted for me. And it's kind of embarrassing because there are memes going around that talking about how the religious right, when things starting to impact them individually, like cancer research or somebody who's been affected by gun issues, all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a minute. So, but I have to say, it happens to people like myself on the left as well. And so in 2012, I was living in North Carolina, and there was a ballot measure that would have and did define marriage as only between a man and a woman. That ballot measure was up for the vote, and it was in April of 2012. And I had lived through that in Missouri when I lived there a few years before. But I didn't have any community or anything when I was living there. They were working against it. And in North Carolina, I did. And I found these people, and they were organizing, and I remember being at an event, and then at the end of the day, when they're asking for donations, and they're asking for what level are you giving at? Are you giving at participant level, attendee level, or activist? Are you going to be an activist? And I had to really stop and go, wait a minute, am I going to call myself an activist? Well, I guess I will. And so from then on, I decided that was uncomfortable, but only because I had accepted a story that was given to me by other people, that activists are somehow bad, that activists are like rabble-rousers, these bad people somehow, even though, on the other hand, I've been following people like Gloria Steinem and, all of these people for many, many, many years. Why had I separated out like saying those people are great, and I appreciate all they're doing, but I'm not going to be one of them? No. But I had to decide if I'm going to be with people who are also on my side, that I need to step up to the plate. I had to start calling myself an activist in my own way and step forward. That's why I titled the sermon when I was thinking about it, that it's not just loving the country, but how are we going to be committed activists, committed to showing up? And noticing, because I use that word a lot, if you made a word cloud of all of the words I've used, the word notice would be like the top. But noticing the ways that we respond when issues come up. You have to notice first. And so I was thinking on how we 99% white people in this congregation and the larger UU world are affected by the teachings that are insidious in our culture around white supremacy culture, and how that keeps us from being able to step into and beyond our own fears. Where's the accidental? How do we move from accidental, maybe I'll show up to this thing, maybe I will, maybe I'll call myself that, to I am intentional, I am taking this on, even if it does not affect me personally. What am I going to do? So I want to share with you a list of a few characteristics of the white supremacy characteristics, and this is from this book, Dismantling Racism, a workbook for social change groups by Kenneth Jones and Tima Okun. And this is actually from a report to the California State Office of the Chancellor. So I'm just going to list these out and to then go into just a little bit of information about them. And I want for you to think on how some of these characteristics have been internalized into you. And that I do not say with any kind of shame or blame or guilt or anything at all, because I think to myself of when I was coming out as a lesbian, that I had my own inner homophobia to deal with. I still have it now. I think of the ways that I try to work on my own stuff around ableism, around racism, and so on. It is always there because it's the air that we breathe. This is not about shaming. So here are these characteristics. Number 1, perfectionism. Number 2, a state of urgency. Number 3, defensiveness. Okay, notice the words, how you're feeling. Quantity over quality. Worship of the written word. Paternalism. Either or thinking. It's this or it's this, but nothing else. Power hoarding. Fear of open conflict. Individualism. Progress is bigger and more. Objectivity itself as a virtue. And the right to comfort. Now, few of these, I think, stand out a little bit more. I'm going to share the link to this inside our Facebook group so that you can review it some more. Some of the ones that I try to remember when even just going through this, thinking on the ways that I have done these things like within the last week, within the last month, over and over again, and how they have a way of keeping us stuck. You ever felt stuck? Like you just don't know what the next thing is to do. These things, I believe, keep us stuck. Perfectionism, number one, all the time. To me, perfectionism is the big one. Because perfectionism tells us that if we haven't figured out the right answers, like if you're not showing up to the right protest with the right people or the right sign, how many people took a picture of my sign? Was it cute enough? Did I get the right words? We worry about these kinds of things, but is that the important thing? We tell ourselves it has to be perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. You have to just show up and try. Try to work through some of these stories we've been told. A sense of urgency. Now, I know this one is kind of complicated because there are things that are happening every single day, and it feels like we're having to do things. And yet, when we're acting out of that, like immediacy, then we have a tendency to forget to include people. We forget to slow down and try to think of maybe there's an other option we haven't thought of because we're like racing into doing the next thing. We have to find that balance. How can we do this from an open-hearted way? Fear of open conflict. Now, how many of you, like me, a white person who grew up in this world, who was told not to draw attention to yourself? Right? Yes, I see Denise's hand back there. Do not call attention to yourself. Do not make a scene. Do not do anything that would make anybody else uncomfortable. Well, how is that helping us? I don't think it is. Because we're not acknowledging what we're actually feeling. We don't acknowledge what is going on, just like with this woodpecker, like not actually saying, yep, there's a woodpecker, and acknowledging almost like this morning we came in and the lights were hanging down because there's a raccoon hanging around this building. Just acknowledge that, and we try to keep working through it. But pretending like it doesn't exist doesn't help anybody, does it? No. So how do we actually work through it? So I love some of the ideas from this report, and one of the ways that I think is fun, and maybe we'll try it at a retreat, is role-playing working through conflict. Can we pretend like we're in a conflict, and what does it actually look like to work it out, and know that what are the stakes? What are the stakes if we have some kind of conflict? I remind people all the time, this is really important, and we are not in a crisis. We can work through whatever it is because we love and care for each other. That's what we do. We can play, we can imagine maybe a third way we hadn't thought of yet, but by being able to acknowledge it, oh, this is what's happening. Individualism. This is a big, big one in the UU world. Now, we can't pretend like some people try to think that somehow we're special people. What I always so think of that is kind of, it's another form of supremacy, that somehow we are somehow like different from everybody else. Well, I'm here to tell you that we also exist in the entire world. We also have been taught about that we can lift ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we do that. And so the ways that shows up in our congregations is that we don't reach out to each other. We maybe not listen to each other as well as we could. We don't acknowledge the whole group that maybe worked on something together. How individualism keeps us just completely internalized and isolated. I had to say, I'm kind of sad recently sometimes learning about people who have been in the hospital or something's happening and like, oh, I wish we had known. We're your community. Reach out. We can help you. We're here for you, I promise. We will do our best. We may not always get it right, but we do try. I'm going to end with this idea of right to comfort. Now, we, UU, vastly majority white people, have been given the message, we've internalized this idea, that the world revolves around us and that we are supposed to be happy all the time and that everything is going to work out the way we intend it to, all of these right to comfort. And so when people sometimes show up at protests that maybe they're not the organizers at or something where they're a minority at, and they don't like it and they want to leave, or they just don't show up at all because they know if I go into that room, I am going to be the minority and I do not want to be uncomfortable. But how does that help us build relationships? We're not here just for ourselves, right? We're here for the larger world. If we want to do something bigger, then we have to be able to see beyond. I imagine that everything that's happening in the world right now requires us to make and build communities that we have not yet seen. I see different walls between our various organizations and communities, but there's something beyond the wall. Something else is out there if we're willing to step out of our own comfort. And I also want to challenge that this congregation has this way of seeing that we do social justice, but we turn it all over to the Social Justice Committee, which does an amazing job. I'm not going to say they don't, but it belongs to all of us. All of us. We are all the Social Justice Committee. And when work is needed to be done, I encourage you to show up, even if you don't know what the heck they're asking for. Show up. Do the thing, because we are all in this together. I want you to consider moving from an accidental activist to a committed activist, no matter what the situation is. We, the people, all Americans, means all the people, and not just all Americans. The Constitution says citizen, anybody who is here in the United States. We are all count, we make space. It means we show up and we draw attention to others wherever we can. We support other people on their path, the needs that they have. Our country, the United States of America, needs us now more than ever. We, too, are Americans. Let us do our internal work. Notice when we are being held back by our own stories. Notice that and move forward, even when it is scary. Thank you.
Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large congregations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, many small congregations. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members. Each of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. As stated earlier in the announcements, today we will have a special Caring Sunday collection for the Greening of Detroit. The Greening of Detroit is a nonprofit organization focused on enhancing the quality of life for Detroiters by planting trees, providing job training, and involving our youth in the education of the natural environment. Cash and checks will be accepted. Checks should be made out to UUCF with Caring Sunday in the memo line. You may also give via the QR code in the order of service by including a note indicating that your donation is for Caring Sunday. You're now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. Thank you. Please join me in reciting the offertory blessing that can be found in your order of service. To the work of creating beloved community within and beyond these walls, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings. Please rise as you're willing and able to sing our hymn from the Gray Hymnal, number 159, This Is My Song.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of praise for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
Our closing words come from Reverend Dan Schatz. So what can we do? We can care for each other. We can hold each other through the trauma and the fear, remind each other that beauty and joy and love and laughter are still real, that ideals still mean something, that as hard as it might seem in this moment, we can reclaim the values of dignity and equity and justice, of interdependence and generosity and pluralism and love. We can lay the groundwork for healing and growing and creating together the interdependent community that this country must become. We can and we will redeem the soul of our nation.
Okay, I need everybody to come immediately outside to the rain garden. Come right out around the side.